Now it's like my passion to coach teachers, specifically teachers who are miserable or burnt out, and just showing them that there are other ways to do things. And there are other ways, like it's going back to the money question, there are other ways to make money, and there are other ways to provide for your family in a way that's not scary. You are listening to the Beyond the Classroom podcast, a podcast for burnt out teachers who know something's gotta give. After teaching for 14 years and feeling completely burned out for way too long, in May of 2022, I made a big decision and left the classroom. I now help burnt out teachers like you take back balance and joy so you can wake up every day loving your life. In this podcast, we'll explore who you are beyond the classroom, whether you're considering leaving or wanting to make changes so you can fall in love with teaching again. Either way, I understand what it's like to be living a life that looks fun and cute on the outside. You know, summer's off, playing all day, off at 2 o'clock every day, but actually feels miserable and draining. I'm your host and coach, Sandy Patterson, and I'm so excited to help you step into your fullest potential and believe in that potential to make an impact on the world, not just survive each day. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hello, Instagram followers or friends or anybody that's on here right now, or nobody at all too. I am hosting an Ask Me Anything workshop, or not a workshop, like an informal chat a little bit later today, this afternoon at 5 o'clock Pacific time. And I got some really good questions. And so I just thought I would pop on here for a little bit and answer some of these questions before I get on Zoom this evening. So I'm recording this on Zoom as well to send the replay out. So I'm just going to basically chit chat here. If you do have any questions and you're on live right now and you want to pop them in the comments, feel free to do that. Super informal chat here. Just wanted to share. So I know like my story is a little bit different, and I just thought it would be helpful to have like a real person to ask questions to. So like if you're considering leaving the classroom, or you're like on the fence, or you've thought like, is there anything else out there for me? It's helpful to be able to talk to someone that's been through what you're going through right now, or like feeling those feelings, and being able to ask somebody like a real person like those questions. So that's why I'm hosting this little informal chat. And if you want to join me on Zoom later, that's totally fine. I will be there ready to answer questions, but I thought I would just hop on here first to answer some of these questions for you guys on Instagram here. So first question I got was from Joyce, and she asked me, how did you know it was time to leave teaching? So I talk about this all the time. Like I knew that it was time for me to leave when that tipping point got scarier for me to stay than it was for me to leave. And leaving was really scary. So it would have been the easier thing to just stay, but I was so miserable and I was so unhappy in my position in my teaching position, that I just knew that something had to give, like something had to change. So it was a lot of back and forth. And then I tell the story a lot. Like one morning I was driving to school. I was not driving to school. I was driving my boys to drop them off at my mother-in-law's house so they could go to school. Like, you know, the whole like hustle or whatever, you got to get the kids ready, you got to get the lunches ready, you got to get everybody out the door, and it's only 6 a.m. and it's still dark out and everybody's upset and tired. But I'm driving them. It was a Monday morning, and my oldest said to me, I said, I already can't wait until next weekend. And he looked at me and he said, well, yeah, because you hate your job. And I was like, oh, it's not that I hate my job. It's just that I love you more. And when he said that, like I knew that how I was feeling at work was starting to impact my home life and what my kids were seeing of me. So for me, that was like a defining moment of like, okay, I'm going to have to make a change here. And at the time, I didn't know exactly what it would look like or what was going to happen, but I knew that I wasn't going to be able to stay for forever. So that was the moment that I knew that it was time to leave. So hopefully that answers that question. But there were also a lot of other little things, right? Like when you end the school day, and you just don't like who you are and you're miserable and always like I was constantly always thinking about teaching and my students in school. I needed a change, and I knew that I needed to put myself ahead of my job. So that's when I knew that it was time to leave. So next question was from Amanda. When you knew it was time to leave, what was the first step you took? So this is a really good question, because I think a lot of times, like when we want to do something or when we know something needs to happen, we don't know like how to do it or what to do or where to even start. So when I knew it was time to leave, well, the first step that I took was making a plan. So I think the plan was like the huge piece of having a plan. Like as teachers, like we love to plan and we love to know what's coming. And with a big change like this, with any like life change that you're about to make, or any big thing that you're about to do, having a plan, I feel like at least it made me feel a little bit more comfortable, right? Like, so knowing like systematically what I needed to do in order to make this big change happen. And so having the plan was like, that was the biggest piece for me. And different things like played into that plan, like things like looking at financial aspects, looking at like HR things. I had to reach out and see like, because things are different everywhere. So like what exactly was the process that I needed to go to? And then I also knew that I wasn't going to be able to do it alone. So I hired my own life coach. And that was probably one of the biggest things that I did. Like there's no way. She was just amazing and helped me like transition through that big change and showed me that it was possible to make those changes. So that was like the biggest thing, is when I knew it was time to leave, the first step that I took was to make a strategic plan to figure out what exactly needed to happen in order for me to succeed once I made that choice. So having a plan is the biggest piece of advice. And I would say that with anything in life, right? Like anytime you're making a huge change or you're thinking about doing anything big or scary, is having a plan can kind of reduce that stress and that scary, right? Okay, next question. How did you make money after you left? So this is what I hear often too. Like a lot of people say like, I wish I could leave, but I can't because, or I wish I could find something else, but I can't because of the money. Like I need, and that I understand that. Like I know that we need money to feed our families and pay our bills and all that stuff. So I completely understand that. So for me, I knew that I needed a plan. Again, going back to the plan, I knew I needed a plan to help contribute to our family financially. So after I left, well, actually while I was still there, I started a business supporting teacher authors. And I was basically, I am basically a VA for teacher authors. So teachers that sell resources on Teachers Pay Teachers, they would hire me to help with whatever they needed. So it might be creating curriculum, creating resources, it might be updating products, it might be whatever it might be, social media, whatever it was, I was there and I supported them. So that was one piece of my puzzle. The other piece, I became a bar instructor. So I teach bar classes and I still do both of those things now. And then I also am building up my coaching business. So I became a certified life coach, started a coaching program, went through coach training, and now it's like my passion to coach teachers, specifically teachers who are miserable or burnt out, and just showing them that there are other ways to do things. And there are other ways, like it's going back to the money question, there are other ways to make money, and there are other ways to provide for your family in a way it's not scary. So yes, that is what I'm doing. Next question. So what about your benefits and retirement? That question was from Rachel. So benefits and retirement. She asked, what about your benefits and retirement? So again, that all went back to the plan, right? So I needed to figure out the plan. And it was a lot of meetings with like my financial advisor, with HR people regarding like the retirement and the benefits. And as far as benefits go, my husband's super lucky. We were able to get benefits under his work. So we had benefits, like I had been the benefits provider for our family forever, basically. But when I decided to leave the classroom, we explored what it would look like for him to get benefits from his work. And it turned out that his benefits were actually better than mine. So it worked out in the sense. So that's just something, again, that you just have to plan for. You have to figure out, like, if it's something that you really want to do, you just have to figure out how to do it. Like, when there is a will, there is a way. Like, everything is figure outable, right? So again, just having a plan. Like, I didn't just like jump and leap and say, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I made sure that I had a plan to make sure that benefits were taken care of, to make sure that my retirement wasn't going to just go nowhere. And now I contribute to my retirement now. It looks different. It's a different way of doing that instead of it coming out of my paycheck. So when there's a will, there's a way, right? Okay, Talia asked, do you miss having summers off? So this is another one that I get a lot. So last summer was the first summer that I was not technically in the classroom. Like, I left in June and then I knew that I wasn't coming back in September. So do I miss having summers off? I don't know yet because I haven't technically had a summer off, but what I do know is most of my summers were spent prepping and thinking about school. Like, there was never a time that I was able to like turn it all the way off, right? So I don't know, but I don't think that I'm going to. Exactly, Amber, when I have work-life balance, like when you have a better work-life balance, I feel like, yeah, and exactly with teaching, like I felt like you were like constantly, or I was at least constantly like crawling to the next break. Like, if I can just make it to Thanksgiving, like, oh, let me, and then you make it to Thanksgiving and then you're like, you take a breath, but then right back into it. I mean, a day into Thanksgiving break, I'm thinking about school and I'm stressed about when I have to go back, and I'm counting the days back, like, oh, only 5 days left, only 4 days left, only 3 days left. So I definitely don't feel like that now. And this like life change for me, like now I'm basically working for myself. I'm making my own decisions, making my own hours, showing up when I want to, how I want to. It was a very big shift. So I talked to a friend about this too. Like, I feel like every day now is almost like a PD day. You know, when you have a professional development day and you don't have kids, or even like a planning day, when you don't have kids in the classroom and you kind of wake up and you feel like excited and ready and refreshed. But at the end of the day, you feel like accomplished, but not absolutely exhausted. Like, that's how every day feels now. Like, I feel super accomplished at the end of the day. I feel tired, but not completely exhausted and drained. Like, I feel happy and like I accomplished a lot of things and that I'm moving forward and doing all those things, but without like the exhaustion and just being miserable. Okay, so next question. What do you miss the most about teaching? Good question. So what I miss most about teaching, honestly, are the relationships. And when I say relationships, I mean the relationships that I had with my students and their families. I do miss that. And I also miss the relationships that I have with my colleagues too. My teaching friends are and still are my very, very best friends. Like, they've become family. And it's funny too, because I miss seeing them every day, but I don't feel like I'm not as close to them as I was before. I almost feel closer because my brain feels a lot less like cluttered, that I can really focus on those relationships a little bit more and really be more present in them. So definitely what I miss most about teaching are my colleagues, my teach besties, and those relationships with the kids and their families. And I think that was a big piece of why I decided to become a coach, is because what I missed was helping people on a deeper level. And so for me, that's kind of where coaching came in. And that was a way for me to connect with people and create those relationships and help people out. Okay, next question. There's just a few more. Meredith asked, do you regret your decision in leaving? And that is a no. I do not regret my decision one bit, not for 1 second. And I honestly thought that I would. So I left in June and I thought we would go through the summer, June, July, August. And then come August, like when all of my teacher friends and everybody was getting ready to go back to school and setting up their classrooms and doing all that stuff, I thought that I was going to have serious FOMO and be like, oh my gosh, what did I do? But if being totally honest here, I haven't felt that even for 1 second. Like, I have not regretted this decision for 1 second, because I think that I see what it's like, I guess, on the other side, and that it is possible to contribute to your family and to make a difference, but not through teaching, which was just draining me. So no, I do not regret my decision at all. Okay, then let's see what else. I have another one. I think I want to leave, but I go back and forth all the time. How do you know if it's the right decision? So yeah, there's no, as when we say right, we put that in air quotes, right? There's no, I don't know how, like, I guess it just depends on what you gauge as right. So if, and I went back and forth too, like so much back and forth. Like, yes, I want to leave. No, I don't want to leave. I could never leave. Yes, I have to leave. So for me, I knew it was the right decision when my family started feeling the effects of me, of what teaching was doing to me, like as a person and as a mom and as a wife and all of that. And I also held on to the idea that you could also go back if I wanted to. Like, I knew that there's always going to be a need for teachers, and not that it would be that easy, but I knew that if, shit really hit the fan, like that I couldn't go back. And I still can. I could go back. I don't foresee that happening because I see what teaching was doing to me, and now I can see what I've kind of discovered who I am, like outside of the classroom, beyond the classroom, that's what I say. So I don't think that I will go back. But you never really know if it's the right decision. Like, what decision do we ever make that we know that it's like the right decision? I think we take everything that we can into account, we make a plan, and then we just jump and trust ourselves enough to know that, like, I've got my own back and I'm going to make this work. And the only way that it's not going to work is if I just quit. And for me, that's not an option. So you never know if it's the right decision or not, but everything always works out, right? I know they say that, but it's true. It really does. Everything works out the way that it's supposed to. Okay. So I wish I could find a new job, but I don't think it's financially possible. What are some tips for staying? So again, this goes with that whole financial thing about when there's a will, there's a way. So we can revisit that. But what are some tips for staying in the classroom? So staying in the classroom, and I hear this a lot from teachers too. Like, I used to love teaching, but it's so different now, and I'm not sure what can I do to love teaching again, to find that love? And I think that my biggest piece of advice for staying would be to really look at your boundaries and that balance between work and life. And that's something that I really struggled with when I was in the classroom, but towards the end, I was able to kind of see how those boundaries played into how I was feeling at the end of the day. And possibly, if my boundaries had been better, I possibly could have figured out a way to stay. So when I say boundaries, I mean that work-life balance boundaries, like how you are able to turn things off. And again, that's so much easier said than done, but it's definitely something that I would say that's something that we need to dig into if you want to stay, which is totally possible. It's just shifts, right? Making small shifts in the way that you do things and the way that you show up in order to find that joy again. But I know that teaching is hard. Teaching is a hard job, and you're pouring yourself into other people all day long. And then most of us are, coming home and pouring into other people even at the end of the day. But it's possible. It's definitely possible. It's doable. It just takes a lot of work, right? So those were all the questions that I got from the Ask Me Anything survey. Like I said, I'm more than happy to answer any other questions. You can message me or DM me or email me or leave a comment here or whatever you'd like. I'm an open book. I'm happy to share. And like I said, it's just helpful sometimes to see somebody else that's been through it and to see what's possible. So if you have more questions, like I said, I'm hosting a Zoom, like really informal chat this evening at 5 o'clock Pacific time. You're welcome to join me there and we can chat in real time. You can always send me a message here. Or like I said, email me anytime. And thank you guys for joining me, for anybody that's here. And I can't wait to catch up with you guys later. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Beyond the Classroom. If you know something has to change and you're ready to take the next step to make it happen, whether it's in or out of the classroom, let's talk it through together. Schedule a no-obligation chat with me and we can talk through where you're stuck, how to get you unstuck, and how to keep you moving forward. Schedule your free call today by clicking the link in the show notes. I can't wait to connect with you.